Hello. Today is Thursday, May 29th, 2014. My name is Elissa Kaplan. It is my honor and privilege today to interview Genevieve Weingrad of Stamford, Connecticut. And this is for the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County. Okay. Jen, hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for letting us do this interview.
Shall I say it's my pleasure? I hope so.
I hope so too. I think it will be. Jen, tell us a little bit about your earliest life. When and where were you born?
I was born in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And I'm one of the youngest of 11 children. My father was a baker. My mother was a homemaker. And where do I go from there?
Well, so tell us about your parents. What were their names? Where did they come from? So,
They both came from Hungary. And my father's name was Jacob. And my mother's name was Esther.
and how did they get to the United States?
My mother had an uncle. I didn't know his first name. We called him Uncle Greenstein. And he was my mother's uncle. And he was here, and he thought it would be a good idea if his niece, Esther, came with Jacob. They were already married. They were married in Europe, Hungary. And so they came. My father, as I said, was a baker.
And what years are we talking about?
God, I think I remember.
Or about? In the 1890s maybe, or 1900?
Probably in the 1890s.
Right. And how did they get into the United States, do you know?
Through my mother's uncle.
Did they come through New York?
Ellis Island. Oh yes, they came to Ellis Island.
Right. And then how did they get to Potsdam?
They got to Pottstown because my mother's uncle lived there and worked there. And somehow, and I can't tell you all the details, he got my mother, his niece, to come with her husband, Jacob, to Pottstown, because he thought that my father could find a good job. He was a baker, and he thought that would be a good thing for him.
What was your father's specialty? Do you remember the kinds of things he made when you were a child?
All I recall as a child, that he used to come with a large bag and very fresh, delicious rolls. And rye bread.
Wow, can't get that today. Not the same. So tell us about those early years in your family, growing up as a child.
Well, as I said, I'm one of 11 children. My oldest brother was 19 years older than I. I remember he used to get down on all fours and I used to sit on his back. He used to take me for a ride.
Are you the youngest?
Yes.
And how many girls and boys were there?
There were 5 boys, 6 girls.
Wow. Ooh, your parents were troopers.
You bet. I don't know. My father was a baker. He worked all night and slept all day. How did they produce? I have no idea.
And your mother took care of things in the home.
My mother was a fabulous cook. Yeah, she was fabulous. And as I said, we lived in Pottstown, which was a very small community. And my mother, I get this coming down the line, was president of the shul.
Oh, a woman who was president of the shul.
And my oldest brother told me that once. Yeah. She was a real macha. You know what that means.
I do, and passed it along to you. Tell us about going to school.
In Potsdam,
Yes.
I was too young.
So when did you leave?
I think I was about maybe 3 to 5 years old.
And where did you go?
To the Bronx.
And why? What made that move happen?
I had an uncle who told my parents that he thought my father would get a good job if he came to the Bronx. And he just worked for Cushman Bakers. Did you know Cushman?
I don't, but it sounds like a famous name.
Yeah, Cushman was very popular, and my father got a job there.
Now, your parents had been or your mother especially, had been very active in the synagogue back in Pottstown.
Yes.
So what happened in the Bronx? Were you members of a synagogue, or do you remember going to a synagogue?
Oh, yes. It was very close. It was around the corner from where we lived. We lived on Crescent Avenue, and the synagogue was on... No, the synagogue was right next to where we lived. My mother and father were very religious. They went to Friday night service or Saturday service. That I remember. They always went to temple.
So it was an Orthodox shul?
Yes. They never said temple, they said shul.
And what language did they speak in?
Hungarian.
Hungarian.
Yes.
And do you speak Hungarian?
Not at all.
But do you understand it?
I had one sister, Ruth, who passed. She married a Hungarian fellow. So she used to be able to speak a couple of words. And she taught us a word, and I subsequently found out it was a curse word. So we weren't allowed to use that in the house.
So, and did they speak Yiddish in the house as
Yes,
well?
yes.
Also, and do you understand Yiddish?
Yes, but I didn't understand Hungarian.
It's a tough language. So tell us about going to school in the Bronx. You went to public school, right?
Yes.
At what age did you start?
I think I had diphtheria as a child,
Oh my.
and I never started. I think I started first grade when I was almost 7 years old.
Oh my God, because you had been so sick.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had diarrhea, and not diarrhea,
The diphtheria.
diphtheria. I guess they came together.
I imagine that might have been part of it. So you had high fevers and you were in bed and
Yeah.
for a long time.
And I was the youngest of 11 children, and all my sisters and brothers were quarantined.
Oh my.
They were not allowed to go to school, they were not allowed to go out of the house until it was safe. Yeah, it was tough.
Wow, but you survived and you made it. What was school like when you got there?
Well, I was older than I should be in the first grade. But I guess, I can't remember all that.
Right, but you made friends and you learned
Sure,
things.
sure.
Right. So, and you went to high school?
Yes.
And which high school did you go to? Do you
I
remember?
went to, on Fordham Road. I guess it was Fordham High School. I'm not sure.
Okay. So you said your parents were very observant. What was Shabbos like? What were holidays like?
Shabbat started at the moment of sundown. My mother had a tray like this. We were one of 11 children. So she had the candles, and she cut the candles in half so that she wouldn't use too many candles, and she'd have to constantly buy candles. She cut the candle and pulled the wick out of the bottom half, and she had a tray like this, and there was candles for each one of us, and she and my father. So big aluminum tray, that's what I remember. And Friday night, the kitchen lit up because all these little candles were lit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you said your mother was a fabulous cook. What would you eat on Friday night for dinner? Do you remember?
Soup and chicken, knedler, always roasted chicken. Yeah.
Right, and that's a
Never baked potatoes, we always had mashed potatoes. And sometimes sweet potato.
And then your father was a baker. Did you have good desserts?
He baked bread.
Oh, that's bread, right?
Yeah. We had wonderful challah and rolls and bread.
Yum. And you celebrated the other holidays? Do any of
Rosh
them?
Hashanah, and of course. My parents were religious, and they celebrated all the holidays.
Did you invite other family members over for the holidays? Or I mean, you had such a big family.
Yeah, we have one, my mother's cousin. His name was, I can't think of it, Eliu, something like that. He came Friday nights,
He was a regular.
yeah.
And do you remember if any of your brothers, what their bar mitzvahs were like?
We had no bar mitzvahs.
No bar mitzvahs.
No. I can't. I remember that my sister, Helen, who was the oldest girl, her son was bar mitzvah. That's the only
That was
thing
the
I
first.
remember.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Right. And did your brothers or did you have any kind of Jewish education outside of your
We
home?
went to Hebrew school.
And you did as well.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you? Do you remember anything?
I didn't like it at all.
Why is that?
Well, there was a very mean teacher. He was a rabbi, I guess. He was not a nice man, and I used to hate to go.
And what was he trying to teach you? Do you remember?
Hebrew.
Hebrew. So you were
Yeah.
learning Hebrew.
Yeah, I don't remember a word.
Hopefully, teaching process has improved since then.
Yeah, hopefully.
So, tell us what happened when you graduated from high school. What was the next step for you?
I got married.
Oh, how did you meet your husband?
Well, this is the love of my life, but he's my second husband. And the man I married, we were teenagers practically. We were 18, 19 years old. And we got married. We had 3 children.
What was his name?
Manny, Weintraub. Very close to Weintraub.
Very close to Weingrad, yes. You didn't get to move in the alphabet, in the long lines.
Yeah.
And what did he do?
Manny?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you remember?
You mean, as
As an occupation. do you-
occupation? In manufacturing, aren't they? With his father?
Yes. Yes, my father was manufacturing women's clothes.
And did you go to work as well outside the home, or your job was taking care of the kids?
Before I got married, I had a job, and yes, right after I got married, sometime after, I worked as a sportswear buyer. Yeah, and I worked for 2 stores. One was Jessica's on Queens Boulevard, and I did a little shopping, not a lot, for Alexander's in New York City. Yeah,
And you were living in the Bronx.
yes.
And what were the names of your 3 children that you had?
Linda, Nancy, and Louis. And unfortunately, Nancy passed away.
Oh, no. Was she ill?
She had ovarian cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She died not too long ago. She died, she was 63 years old.
Very young.
Very sick.
I'm sorry. So tell us what happened next with you and Manny.
Well, I tell you frankly, Manny was a womanizer. And I was home taking care of children. He was a kind man, though. He was never rough or never. Of course, I had no use for him. But I divorced him, and I was very fortunate.
Did you have a Jewish wedding? You didn't. You must have.
Sure.
Was it fancy?
Very small.
Very small.
Yeah.
But
It was in the rabbi's study.
did you wear a wedding dress or a suit?
I guess I was dressed dressed up, yeah.
No. When you got divorced, did you get a Jewish divorce as
I
well?
had to get
What was that like? Do you remember?
I don't know, I went somewhere, you don't remember? We went somewhere and I got the get. He didn't remember either. Somewhere in the Bronx.
And so went to a rabbi and got, so you also got a Jewish divorce. And so here you are, a single woman with 3 children. Then what happened?
I had a job. And I was working. And my oldest daughter, Linda, 16, took care of the 2 little ones, the son. And I worked not far from the store, from my home, so that I could be home in 10 minutes. You know, if anything was going wrong, I wasn't going to worry because I could get there as quickly as possible.
So I understand you got married again. So tell us that story.
Well, I have a niece, and she was in the school system. And one day, after I was divorced for a while, she said, I got a guy for you. You must meet this guy. And so she arranged for us to meet, and we had lunch one day, and we clicked. We were married in 3 months.
Wow. Now what's his name?
His name was Murray Weingrad.
So he went from Weintraub to Weingrad. And was he living in the Bronx as well?
Murray was living in Connecticut.
Wow, so how did he...
Well, he lived in Stanford.
He lived in Stanford.
And my niece Alice was taught in the Stanford schools. And he taught in the school.
Ah, so you came up to Stanford to meet him.
Absolutely. But we met someplace for lunch once. Do you remember?
We met at the railroad station.
That's true. There I had a rose in my lapel, so he should know it was me.
Oh, because you'd never seen each other.
You know what? I was wearing a gray Persian coat,
Ooh.
and my hair was in a chignon. And I was wearing this red rose in my... And he came to the station to pick me up, and he said to himself, she's not for me. And it turned out I was.
And you knew right away, right? Also.
I did.
So, so tell us about your move from New York to
With
the
my
city.
3
To
kids.
3 kids.
Yeah. Well, Alice, my niece who lived here, she found an apartment for me. Yeah, it goes back so long I forget.
Right. It's been. How long have you been in Stanford? How long have you been married?
Murph and I married 52 years. Yeah, and I was married 17 years to the other man.
Right. What was Stamford, Connecticut like 52 years ago?
It was a hick town. He met me at the station, and we got in the car, and he took me all around Stamford and to show me the town. And I thought, gee, it's a really hick town. And I came from a big town.
I know, and big change from New York. So,
Mm.
were you able to find a job?
Did I work for Jessica here? I worked for Jessica in Queens. But when I came here, I worked for Rachel. No? I'm trying to remember.
Okay, but so you came to so you moved into an apartment.
Yeah, my niece got us.
An apartment, right? And you were in downtown Stamford. What was shopping like in Stamford then? Well, after the Bronx, right?
Small town.
Right. So, but you were committed to being here and to being with this guy you loved, and so you made your life here. Did you find the Jewish community right away?
Well, you belong to Temple Sinai. No, Bethel. Then we belong to Temple Sinai. Yeah.
And tell us what Murphy was doing. How did your husband make a living?
He was how did you make a living?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you can.
Do you want?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I had left teaching and was working for an employee benefits firm
Oh,
in New York.
yeah.
So he was working for
He was a teacher.
a teacher. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he worked for employment benefits.
Right. So he was. Did he have to travel to New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were here, did you have other children?
With him?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
But he had 2 children.
Oh, and
So I have 5 children.
nice. What did
I
they have?
actually, what I did was go to court and adopt the 2 children. I never wanted to be a stepmother. So I adopted Jan and Debbie, and I had Linda and Nancy and Louis.
And how did the ages work out? Were they all about the same age?
Louis and Jan were practically the same age.
So there you are with 5 children, and tell us about their growing up in Stamford.
It was great. It was very good. I didn't have any problems. They went to the public schools, and very good. We joined the Jewish Center.
Tell us, so where was that located? That was downtown.
The same Jewish Center.
Right, it was in its,
Yeah, it was,
it was not far
there's
from,
a church there now.
right, not far from where you live now, right?
Right.
Right, so you were in the original, and you met people in the Jewish community and made friends?
Oh, yes, well, he did. He knew a lot of people. And they couldn't wait to see who Murph married.
Mhm.
I'll let New York slicker.
There you go. Did you get involved in the synagogue? Did you personally get involved?
I got involved with the sisterhood, yeah, with Temple Sinai.
So you made the move from the conservative to the Reform Temple?
Yeah.
Who was the rabbi there?
Yeah, I was president of sisterhood.
Ah, so tell us about that. Tell us about being president.
It was a nice sisterhood, you know.
What did you do to raise money? Was that one of the things you had to do, was raise money?
I don't remember.
No, it didn't have to do, okay, good. So, but you would, that was a couple of years you were president.
Yes.
So you must have been involved ahead of time
Yeah,
to,
I was involved.
right, to work up to being president.
Right.
Right. Did you make bar and bat mitzvahs for your children?
Yes. We had one bar mitzvah for Jan and Louis, because they were practically the same age. We had Jan on Friday night and Louis Saturday morning, and we had a big function for both of them.
At the synagogue.
Yeah. And at home, right?
Now, had you moved into a house by this time? Or you were still living in your original place?
No, we lived where would we live?
She's forgotten. We had a small home up off Long Ridge Road.
Oh, so you were living off of Long Ridge then for a while?
No, that's where we settled, in Long Ridge Road.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, with all the trees.
Yes.
Right. Did you get involved in the community of Stanford in any way?
Yeah. Did I?
Politics or?
Yeah, because I ran for the Board of Education. Should I be interrupting
Sure,
you?
that's fine, sure.
Because we were much involved in political activities at the time. When I left teaching, I got involved in
We got
politics.
very involved
And
in
so we were very much involved in the
the
election.
city and the community.
Right, so you got to,
Especially did.
right, but you had to be there to help out.
I did,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
so you,
everybody.
everybody was involved in an
Yeah.
election.
Right.
What do you enjoy doing in your spare time? Did you have, now or before, did you have hobbies or things that you did?
Mahjong?
Okay, good at math.
Yes. I don't remember. I got involved with the Jewish Center and Temple Sinai,
Plenty to do there.
yeah. And as I said, I wound up being such a president and active. I was quite active.
And you said in your notes to me that that you know you in between having the children you were a sportswear buyer,
Yes.
teacher, market research director. Can you tell us a little bit about
Well,
that?
my daughter and son-in-law had a marketing research company, and I worked for them. And whatever it entailed, I had to do, which kept me busy.
Oh, I bet. What inventions have you lived to see that have changed your that have impacted your life in some way?
When it mentions, my God. You know how old I am?
50?
I'm 92 years old.
Wow. So what over your
I mean,
life-
how far can I go?
as far as you like.
Huh?
As far as you like. It's very different from when you were born.
The mix master, I use that for baking. Well, we had a washing machine, but it was the kind of machine that you had to hook up on in the sink. You know, that had hoses, and you hooked it on the sink and let the water in, and that was ancients ago. But I remember using it.
Oh my goodness. So life has gotten a lot easier.
I would think so. And I don't do anything. I relax.
That's what, well, you, absolutely, that's,
Those children over there are my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren.
well, how many grandchildren do you have? About? We have 5 children.
How many grandchildren? 12? Or 14?
No, 12 great-grandchildren.
14
And
grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren.
And where are they these days?
They're here.
Mostly in the area.
I have one daughter who lives in Florida. Her children are down there as well. But all the rest are in the area. Most I have a grandson living in New York City, Stanford.
You've been married 50 years. Were you impacted by World War II at all?
World War II.
Murphy?
Yes, my first marriage. He was in the Navy. I had 3 children. But fortunately, he was stationed in Brooklyn, so he was home at night. He went back in the morning. And that's about it. Murphy's in the Army. You were overseas, right? When we were, yeah.
So you did have some involvement in World War
Mhm.
II as well. You were the stay-at-home wife. Now, you were very interested in fashion. That's
I
where
was
you
a buyer.
You were a buyer. Are any of your children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren in fashion? What are some of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren doing with their lives?
A hell of a lot more than I did. They're very active, very busy, very educated. They're wonderful.
Is there anything that you wished you had done differently? Or that you would like to
I
add?
wish that I had gone further in education. I had no time, I had kids. You know, today, the parents go to school, they go to college, and somebody else takes care of the kids. In my day, I had to stay home and take care of the kids.
Right. What do you think your great-grandchildren would say about you? What do they call you?
Grammy, Grandma, Gigi. They all call me different things. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure they say that you're an amazing and wonderful woman.
I should hope so.
What advice do you have for young people?
Stay focused. Continue your education. Education is very important. Be kind. And steer yourself in the right direction. So they can all be happy about their lives and their future lives.
Have you traveled a great deal?
Not much. We went to Israel. We went to Italy. Not much. Did we? We went. No, Israel. We went to Italy. That's it.
That's it. And do you now, or did you used to get back into the city a lot? No, once you got to Stanford, you made your life
I was
here.
very happy.
What's the biggest change in Stanford that you see?
It became very congested. It's not a country town anymore. When I married Murph, it was a small town. It was very nice. I was so happy when I worked for a place in Queens. I worked for Jessica. And when I met Murph, and I said, I'm married, I'm going to Connecticut. And she said she got 3 kids, he's got 2 kids. You'd never make it. I said, I'm certainly gonna try. She tried to talk me out of it, I swear. Not to marry him and go to Connecticut and raise 5 children. I didn't listen to her. I did what I wanted to do and left the job. And that's what happened.
Happily ever after.
Amen.
Well, we in Stanford are really delighted that you made that choice, and I'm sure your family is delighted as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this interview. It's been a pleasure.
It's been wonderful.